A number of years ago, I had an experience that left a deep mark on me. When I was 21 years old, I had recently returned from a church service mission, and in my home community, there was a brand new church being built, and it was nearing the end of its construction. And I was attending a local junior college, and I knew the guy who was in charge of the building, and he asked me if I wanted a part-time job there as I was attending school, and I said, that'd be perfect. And so I worked 20 to 30 hours a week on a regular basis, just helping take care of the church. It was just an absolute beautiful facility. We had a group of guys who played basketball on a regular basis. The gym was a full court gym, fiberglass backboards, the square backboards, and anyway, it was a dream for us. And we had 15 guys who would play 3-4 mornings a week, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning before work or school and go play ball, and just had a great group. Anyway, the church was, as I mentioned, one of the most beautiful facilities I'd ever seen. I was in charge of taking care of the outside, the landscaping, had a riding mower, and also the inside was everything was just brand new. And it was huge. And probably about a month before the dedication of the building, the construction manager came to me and said, "Would you like to earn a little extra money?" And I said, "Sure." And he says, "Well, there's something that needs to be done. Follow me." And then he walked me to a utility room, and it was locked, and he opened the utility room, and on the floor, there was a little hatch. And he opened up the hatch, and he says, "Down there, there's tunnels that run all throughout the building." And it was about 4x4, so you could crawl down in there. And he says, "What I need you to do is go through these tunnels and clean out all the junk that is in there." It's really hard work. So he built me this little contraption, put 4 wheels on it where I put it down with me, and I would roll it along with me, and I'd have a 5-gallon plastic container, and then I just fill it up with all the junk that I would come across, and then wheel it back out and take it up and throw it in a wheelbarrow and then take it out to the trash can. Well, and first of all, I had no idea there were tunnels underneath. It was really cool, it was cool exploring all that stuff, but I was absolutely stunned by how much junk that was in these tunnels. So what had happened, the construction was happening so fast that after they laid the foundation, and these tunnels were for air conditioning, for ventilation and stuff like that. But what happened is they built the building, they would just throw things in these tunnels and then build over it. And and after, I don't know if you've ever experienced crawling on your knees, and he said, "You're going to need some of these, rubber pads on your knees and stuff." And I soon found out what he was talking about. This construction manager is a pretty wise guy. He knew I was fairly naive of what this would entail. But anyway, after a couple of days of doing that, my knees were so sore that you couldn't even touch it with your finger without excruciating pain, because I would be crawling all through it and filling it up. There were boards. There were fast food wrappers all over the place, cans, dirt. It was just junk everywhere. And it was excruciatingly difficult, to get that stuff all. Some boards were big, and you'd have to cut them up and go down there and figure out a way to cut them up with a saw. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. And after a couple of days of doing that, I was just beat. And I went to him and said, "You know what? Hey, sorry, it's not going to work for me. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this." And And so let's just, pay me for what I did, and then we'll call it good. And then I was kind of done with that. But in the back of my mind, I always kind of wondered, because what was done with that, because the dedication came, the outside of the building looked absolutely fantastic. All the doors were shined, and glass was sparkly clean, and the wooden doors were polished, and in the hallways, and the classrooms were beautiful, and the chapel was absolutely beautiful. As I mentioned, the gym was beautiful, the outside grounds were beautiful. And anyway, I just went along with my business, always wondering what happened with that. And it was about 10 years later, and a group was playing basketball over the 4th of July weekend, and it was a super hot weekend. I think it got up to 105. A place called Walnut Creek, California. It's about 30 miles northeast of San Francisco, the Oakland Bay Area. Anyway, it got so hot that something happened with the sprinkler system and it broke. And so there was water flooding everywhere in the gym. And so phone calls were made, and a lot of people came over. We tried to save the gym and get wetbacks and all that stuff. And anyway, it was a mess. And the fire department came, turned the water off, but as we were cleaning it up, we would hear water running, dripping down through the vents, and the ecclesiastical leader at the time going, what's going on with that? Where's that water dripping? And then I said, well, actually, there are tunnels down there. I've been down there before a number of years ago, and if you want me to go down there, I'll go down and check it out, make sure that something's not, a pipe's not broken or anything. And so I went into that same utility room and opened up the hatch, and, wondering, again, as I mentioned, what was ever done with all the dirt and junk that was in there. And by the time I crawled all the way around to where the leak was, and, further than I'd ever gotten in the first place, and saw that it was just water dripping from above and there were no leaks anyway. And when I came out, I was completely covered from head to toe in dirt and mud and gunk. So nothing had ever been done. So the construction manager, after I said, I'm not going to be able to do that, to clean these tunnels out before the dedication. So nothing was ever done. And so all the junk was still down there. And so the dedication came, and I was driving home that day. It was just an amazing metaphor for me. And I go, man, this is like we are as human beings, right? We can look really good on the outside, and yet there are things inside of us that have never been dealt with. So I think of this concept of, as I'm working with people, of energy blocks and power leaks. Because life is about positive energy, focus, having motivation to do things. And what gets in the way of that? And from my perspective, it's unresolved trauma, participating in things that simply are not productive and positive, and we all know what those are. And so an energy block, we can't get power into our life clearly if we still have stuff we haven't cleaned out, right? We're blocking energy from coming into our life because we're still living in that frozen state of fight or flight. And so part of healing and recovery, Judith Herman in her book, Trauma and Recovery, a groundbreaking book, talks about the 3 phases of therapy. Number 1, creating safety, a safe environment, a safe individual to be able to confide in, to tell your story. Number 2, remembering and mourning. And number 3, reconnecting with power in the world. But let me just talk for a little bit how challenging it is. Remember when I said how challenging it was for me to go into that dark tunnel and start cleaning some of that stuff out? It was excruciatingly painful, and I said, I'm not doing this. And it reminds me of a part of a book by Brooke Neville's that I'm finishing reading right now, and the title of the book is Unspeakable Things: Silence, Shame, and the Stories We Choose to Believe. What a stunning book. She tells her experience. She worked at NBC, and she was manipulated, power and control by Matt Lauer, is that his name? Matt Lauer. Anyway, the guy on Good Morning America, I think it was. And let me just read you a little bit of what happened to her, because it took her years to be able to admit what had happened and see the truth of what had happened. And she ended in a psych ward. Let me just read a little bit of what she says. Years after the psych ward, this is my definition of trauma. It's the unspeakable part of your past that you will do just about anything to hide from the people you love. So it can, and I'm just jumping from place to place, and a few places I've marked up. It can feel like saying these things aloud will literally kill you, as though no one who hears them could ever accept or love you, and that you'll be alone forever. And then going on, she said, but only if you confront what happened and get the help you need to process it, can you be made free. I promise you. Now, this is the point I want to emphasize. She says, and this is what she learned. I promise you, no one, even if they don't understand or can't forgive, will ever be as cruel as the voices in your head. And nothing will ever be as terrifying as the moment you begin speaking these unspeakable things aloud. From my experience as a therapist for many years, I can tell you from my perspective, I have heard some of the most challenging things for human beings to go through. Every shape, form of degradation, trauma. Anyway, I've heard a lot through the years, and when people finally, and those that have been working with, finally are willing to open up and talk about them, I have never, ever had anything but the utmost admiration and respect for them. Never judged, criticized. It's like they are, like Brooke Neville said in the book, nothing will be as worse in your head, right? And there's this classic saying in addiction treatment and recovery, we're only as sick as our secrets. But at the same time, people generally feel that if I tell anyone what I've actually been through or actually done, they will reject me. And I'm just telling you that's not true. It is not true. And carrying these burdens by yourself, and we all have skeletons in the closet, carrying them by ourselves will just, inhibit our capacity to find peace, to go through the process of remembering and mourning. And the thing that's really interesting also is and I had the experience last week. I've been working with an individual for the past 6 months, and was talking about a lot of sexual abuse in her past, and some trafficking things that have happened. And it wasn't until just recently where she was able to tell me more of, I don't want to give too many details here, but it was a family member. A family member is the one that created and starting it, where before she was unable to speak that. So it took her months to even get to the place, this is actually what happened. And I think Even us as individuals can't bear to accept it ourselves. And so we hide it from ourselves, and the limbic part of our brain does a really good job of actually doing that. It keeps it out of our awareness and consciousness. And it's not too uncommon for people in their 30s and 40s all of a sudden to have memories start flooding them that they've never been aware of before, of some things. But I just want you to know, if anyone listening to this podcast has such things in their life, there really is help available. That's why I love the way Brooke Neville's talks in her book. She absolutely, there is nobody that will understand. There's nobody that will help me. I'm the problem. I'm the reason this happened, and just blamed and blamed and blamed herself. And part of her atonement, the work that she is doing to find strength and peace, even though it's absolutely terrifying for her, is to tell her story. I mean, she's a journalist, so she writes amazingly well. And anyway, it's just, and her saying that, if I just would have been able to do this a little earlier, right? I've heard that from a number of clients. Another individual I've been working with says, I'm so frustrated that it took me 40 years to get to the point where I could actually talk about some of these things and then actually, be on the right medications. Because we've heard so many strange things about medications, but I'm telling you, if you have a real mental illness, your brain is not functioning with certain neurotransmitters, the right medication can be a game changer. It really, truly can, with competent help. Anyway, thought I would like to leave you with today. No matter where you've been, no matter what you've been through, there is help available. You do not have to try to do this alone. And there is something so powerful in being able to be honest with another human being and verbalize and tell your story, that you don't have to carry it alone. And find the help that you need. I just want you to know that that is possible, and that if you feel that may be useful for you, don't deny yourself of that opportunity. You're worth it. You are worth it to get whatever help you need to find answers, to find solutions to some of the things that you're dealing with. Keep working on things. Keep struggling. Keep searching for answers. And if you're trying to find a therapist, a lot of it is truly about the connection, feeling comfortable with the person. That's why many, many times it takes a long time for someone to really open up, because they're just testing the therapist. Can I feel comfortable with you? Do I believe you? Do I trust you? Do I feel that you really care about me? And anyway, again, when I've had individuals speak about things that are unspeakable, I have nothing but the deepest and the utmost compassion, love, and admiration that they're willing to address these things and try to resolve them. Anyway, just leaving you with those thoughts. Have an amazing week. Be strong this week. Keep moving forward. Always onward.